Good morning, folks. I wasn't, man, I wasn't gonna put out a video on this, but it's just something that I've been talking about in game quite a bit with people, um, and in Discord quite a lot. I don't like to speculate. It's not really my thing. That's a Fat Phil and Bones thing. But generally, when I do speculate, it is based on some degree of evidence, and it's usually not conspiracy minded. So, what we're talking about today, of course, it's Relic Delta, but really the economic changes that we can expect to come to the game. And I do need to stress that this is not official communication. This is 100% from me. As a tester, I have received zero um, relevant information on the economic changes that are supposed to be coming to the game right when Relic Delta gets in. But I do have an idea of what we can expect, and I'm going to talk about exactly what that idea is and why I have a sneaking suspicion that it is going to make up the bulk of what we can expect. And we'll do that right after the intro. All right. So, Relic Delta's coming to the game. Actually, let me switch the camera back. Relic Delta's coming to the game, and we know that there's going to be an economic change, and nobody really knows what it is. Presumably, it's supposed to make relicing easier, right? And there's a lot of people flipping out about Relic Delta. And I think that there's a lot of players out there that think that Relic Delta is about short term cash injection. And that's just silly. It doesn't make sense to do something like that. Just release a ton of packs at once and watch the money fly in and then, throw the game away. But that's not the purpose. The purpose is to build a system that allows them to continuously upgrade the system so that they continuously make money. And we can pan that all we want, but they are a corporation, they are a business. That's the goal, and that's kind of what we all signed up for. And shocked Pikachu face, right? That's what we can expect. Now, what I think is going to happen, and if you notice that when we talk about the Relic Delta 5 numbers, the version 5 numbers, it looks like, around Relic Delta 3 is where things start to get iffy. Okay, for players. So Relic Delta 1, easy. Relic Delta 2, not a big deal. Relic Delta 3, this is where counters kind of start to fail. Relic Delta 4, only like the absolute best counters are going to continue. And Relic Delta 5, typically you see like only the most insane counters, like the Treya counters to things, are ever going to win. And players are really worried about that. And I think that CG right now, if they release Relic Delta today, their goal is that it doesn't actually impact the game that much at all. And there are players who are saying, right, like, hey, well, then what's the point? The point is the future. All right. So let me explain. Let me actually talk about the economic changes that I'm expecting to come to the game. And then I'll explain why. So we're going to switch back over here. We're going to head into the game. For one, the first thing that I'm expecting to happen is that when it comes to signal data right now, I know it says 2 down here, but this actually means 1 or 2, not 2. I'm expecting all signal data that is currently available to be doubled, right? So that we can see, kind of like with core gear, we'll start to see an increase in the amount of signal data that players are going to be receiving. I also believe that when we go to the scavenger here, we are going to see the amount of points needed in order to get all relic materials up to relic 7. All of those will be halved. And halved is a good thing, so don't get that confused. What I mean is, for Zimbital crystals, it'll go from 90 points needed, right, to 45 points needed. Or they might just double the amount that each of these gives, which would probably be easier, so you don't have to get into having numbers like 35 and getting a decimal, right? And a lot of players are going to say, hey, well, that's crazy, Egnards, right? Why would they do that? And well, it's actually a pretty smart idea, because when we talk about Relic Delta, there's a max level of Relic Delta 5, right? And When we talk about where the problem starts to happen, it's at Relic Delta 3, correct? And Relic Delta 10 will be where the game currently sits as the highest. And a lot of players are going, oh my God, I'm going to be facing a million Relic Delta or Relic 10 characters, which is not the case. You're going to maybe see a handful of them by the biggest spenders in the next like 6 months. But CG wants the game right now to exist in a situation where Relic Delta 3 is what people will be seeing the most and not really experiencing Relic Delta 4 or 5 at all, right? So yeah, you might be a Chromium player and you come up against an old account that you were going to lose to anyway, and they have all R9s and you have all R3s. Sure, that can happen. But you're going to be building through to Relic 7 a lot quicker than you've been building to Relic 7 in the past, which means that the majority of battles for veteran players are going to exist at Relic Delta 2, right? Because you're not going to see a lot of Relic 10 characters. You still only see a handful of Relic 9 characters. So you're going to see like Relic Delta 1, Relic Delta 2, and players are going to kind of forget that Relic Delta even exists. And that isn't a bad thing, but it's also part of the long-term plan, right? So what CG did stipulate to us is they did say that part of the reason that we haven't seen a relic increase in about 4 years is because the relic system is kind of linear and it doesn't work correctly, and it doesn't exist a place where just doing the relic level itself is important or impactful to players, and that they do expect to add more relic levels in the future at a quicker pace than they've added them before. So what I'm expecting to see is with Relic Delta 10, with Relic 10, man, this is confusing. With Relic 10, they'll give us about like 6 months, maybe a year maximum, where we exist in the system where we're all hunky-dory, right? And everybody's getting everything to Relic 7. And Relic 8 is like kind of hard, but not really. And Relic 9 is kind of hard, but not really anymore. And Relic 10 is really tough and really hard because you need this new material from the scavenger, and you need this new signal data from the scavenger, and possibly from a new game mode as well. And we kind of just play on, right? But now CG drops the bombshell of Relic 11 and Relic 12, maybe about 6 months from now. Again, maybe about 12 months from now. And we start to see kind of the same divide we already see pre-Relic Delta, where the players that have the most resources are starting to push into those Relic levels. And I think that that's where we're going to see some Relic Delta 4 and a little bit more Relic Delta 3, and maybe even some Relic Delta 5 matches. All of this to say, because I think some people are going to watch this video and go like, that's not fair, this is effed up, like blah, blah, blah. All that to say is that I think it's a really smart move if CG does something like this, because it allows players to learn Relic Delta in an environment that's semi-safe and where they feel like they're able to upgrade their rosters fast enough to be able to keep up and compete with the new system. Once those players are used to this system, and once new players come in who have never seen anything else and haven't existed or have existed in a world where Relic Delta has just always been a thing, that is when we're going to start to see a creep up of those relic levels. Now, if we talk about Marvel Strike Force's overpower system, it is a very different system. I know it was mostly a failure. I understand that. But when we talk about like their regular gearing system, the way that it kind of works is, let's just say that there's like gear 10 and gear 11. Right, going up to gear 10 is really easy. Going up to gear 11 is really impactful and crazy and hard to do. And if you're fighting a gear 11 team, it's super hard. And then they increase it to gear 12, and now gear 11 is easy, right? And that's kind of what CG is doing here. I think that they are building out a system where previously getting to G12 was impactful. Then getting to Relic 5 was impactful. And now they're saying, hey, let's get them to Relic 7, right? And 8 and 9 will exist kind of like in this in-between world. And Relic 10 is going to be the hard thing. Relic 11 and 12 will do that in the near future once the system has been figured out. Now, I know we're thinking about signal data like, hey, man, this is crazy, like blah, blah, blah. I would love that much signal data. This would be amazing. It would solve all of my problems. I get. But if the game is existing in a place where a new signal data is added, or new signal data are added as Relic 11 or Relic 10, Relic 11 or Relic 12 come to the game, the impact of that doubling of old signal data is not actually going to fundamentally change anything other than perception. Now, all of this is, again, to say, which I think I've said 3 times in this video already, we have to keep a tracker, is that, I don't think it's a negative thing. I do think that a economic change on that level would actually be extremely beneficial to the community. I think it would be extremely beneficial to the game itself. And I do think it would, if CG does what I think that they're planning to do, I do think that it would also increase monetization. It would be a win-win-win all around. Now, that is, again, to say that I don't have their books. I don't see their books. I don't have any of that kind of stuff. Why would they send their financials to some random guy in New Jersey, right? But I think that when we fight a system like Relic Delta and we change the game in such a crazy impactful way, we almost need to reset the board. And the only way for them to reset the board is for this crazy change to not actually change much at all until after the system has been implemented and after we have gotten used to it, right? So, surmise all of this to say, CG, please let us know what this economic impact is. I'm not doing, like, I'm not using my materials. I'm not scavenging things. I'm not upgrading things right now. I'm waiting to hear about this stuff because I don't want to get screwed upgrading 30 relic characters and then finding out it would be cheaper a week later. Don't know what's going to happen. I would like to see these things happen. I do think that they are reasonable, and I do think that they benefit everybody involved. And I really hope that I'm right. Right? So, with that said, peace out, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. That's it.